Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time for a book review. It's been a while since I did a review of a fantasy. This is the first book in a trilogy, the Powder Mage trilogy by Brian McClellan. So Promise of Blood is basically a story about the aftermath of a rebellion. Like you always see the story about a revolution, like the American Revolution and or the French Revolution, which I think this one is inspired by. But you don't always see stories about right after the revolution when they win. What I do, I think that one of the things that I think is appealing about the plot of Hamilton is it does explore that, the aftermath. Like, we hear about it, but we don't get a lot of stories that do that explore what happened after. Because I imagine it's not easy keeping a country or a kingdom or whatever together after you defeated the bad guys or you defeated the tyrant king and all the responsibility that comes with it, trying to keep everything together, decide how you're going to run the country and how you don't want to become another tyrant. And like, what is the right thing to do? And one of our main characters is Thomas, and he's the one leading this, is the leader of the people, and he has to decide what to do, how to handle the situation, how to keep things together, and make sure someone else from another kingdom or nation or whatever takes them over. And in this case, it's the Kez. And then you have Thomas has a son. Thomas has a son, Tanel. Although in one of the reviews I read, I think they addressed him as Daniel. So, and when I finished this today, I picked it up after I read the first few chapters. So they might have mentioned him to be Daniel, and then Tanel was just his nickname or whatever. I don't know. But his son, he has a very strong moral compass. He doesn't like how his dad is doing things. He doesn't have the best relationship. In fact, he addresses his dad by his first name. And they have a very formal relationship, which is sad, definitely sad, but interesting to explore, seeing that dynamic and wishing that they could get together and love each other like an actual father and son. And they do, I think, love each other. But like I said, there's this wall between them. There's this formalness that gets between the two of them. And Tanel is tasked with killing his best friend because he is what they call a privileged. And they're kind of the nobles and the upper class that have suppressed their people, and he is compelled, the best friend, Beau, is compelled to kill Thomas because he is a win against their god, and by getting rid of and killing the king, and as a protection clause, any of the privilege that remain will have to kill if they have this. They have this certain, some of the privileged people have something that forces them to be compelled to kill the person who betrayed the king and betrayed their god, Kresimir. And so Tanel is forced to do that. But then things get out when he goes to visit Beau. Things get out of hand, and the Kez show up, and there is a big, huge battle on the mountain, Tanel and Beau and several others are forced to fight the Kez army, including someone that was sent to spy and be used as a weapon, who is a woman who was sent to spy and also is trying to have Thomas killed, or at least, and resurrect and summon their god Kresimir. And of course, Thomas doesn't believe in Kresimir, doesn't believe existing, because it's all a bunch of hooey, and he doesn't think it's going to happen. And meanwhile, though, all these people are trying to kill him, assassinate Thomas, and he's dealing with trying to find who is the spy in his council, who's the traitor, and the remaining council members. And then there's also this subplot of this chef, this former chef shows up, Mahali, and he claims to be the reincarnated god of Adam, who is kind of like the brother of Kresimir. And he claims to be this reincarnation, and Thomas has to figure out what to do with him. But the problem is that Thomas starts to like this guy, and he also is a really great cook, and Thomas's people like him too because of that. And his cooking has this magic effect on Thomas and all the others. So this is a really very different for me. I'm trying to the last few years, I've been trying to read. Since last year, I've been trying to read different kinds of fantasy, like try different things, something I would normally not read. And this is a type of fantasy that I am normally not. It's a war fantasy, and I do like, I'm not big on war in the real world, but I do like war in fantasy books. And that's probably because, there's magic involved and magical creatures and stuff like that, so it makes it more interesting and entertaining for me as a story. And it allows for escapism, me to escape in a different world. I really enjoy the setting, how it's in a city. And it feels like a mixture of isolation and cozy. Which, I know that's weird to refer to this kind of book as cozy. But I mean the setting. Like, despite the situation and the conflict that they're in, it feels like closed off a little, like something very fragile. They have to protect their city. They have to keep from another group of privilege from taking them over. And it was basically like, if Williamsburg, Virginia, or DC, like if the story was set in there, that's what it reminded me of. Turn my. I also thought I like how complicated the characters are to now, and they're very human, and they make mistakes, and they struggle with their decisions and trying to decide what's the right thing to do. And Thomas is under a lot of pressure because he's the leader of these people, and some people think he's the people that are still loyal to the privileged, the royalists, see Thomas as a bad guy. I mean, there's a young girl that disguises herself, volunteers to be a laundress for Thomas, but she's also sent to kill him because she sees him as a bad guy. I mean, she even thinks that the little boy that is the son of a noble that she's trying to protect, she thinks that Thomas killed him. So she wants to avenge him and get rid of Thomas because in her eyes, he's a tyrant. And a lot of people call him a fool. But in his mind, he's just trying to protect the people. He doesn't want tyrants to take over. He doesn't think we should be ruled by kings, but there are some people who make good arguments on. And it actually reminded me of, in the musical 1776, it's like a musical about the creation of the Declaration of Independence and the signing of it and everything. So we get the Continental Congress, and with a heavy focus on John Adams. And we also get, we see how there's some of them in the Congress, like John Dickinson, who saw their king as, we need him, and, he's good. He didn't see him as a tyrant. While people like John Adams and Jefferson and Franklin were like, he's a tyrant. He needs to go. So it's very interesting to see all these different people's points of view in the middle of a war, because not everybody is going to agree. Not everyone's going to see people, see the same way and have the same opinions. There's going to be sides drawn. And I like when fantasy stories or historical fiction, you get both sides. You see both people's perspective. You don't just see the rebels who are trying to usurp, get rid of the tyrant, the supposed tyrant, the king or the queen or whatever. You actually see, you see the people who still support the king or the queen, as well as the people that are against them. And I like that, and I like how the story explores that. And we also have, it explores addiction to magic. When I was doing my video on talking about my series stats, I was talking about how the Poppy War talks about, like, addiction to magic. And this one also kind of deals with that as well. I've only seen, other than the Poppy War in this book, I've only seen it in 2 TV shows. Once Upon a Time with the Rumpelstiltskin character, and then on Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Will Rosenberg. Both of those deal with the character being addicted to magic. And this one, it's kind of perfect with this one because the characters, there's like, they have sorcery, of course, and shapeshifters, but they have these characters that called power mages, and they snort the gunpowder, and that gives them magic powers. So it's kind of like heroin. I think heroin's the one that can look like powder. I'm not sure. I mean, you know, but and it can be addictive if you're not careful. And it makes sense because magic makes you strong. It makes you, like, you get to fight. You're a strong person. You're more than you are, and you get to do all these cool things that normal humans can't do. So it makes sense that magic could be an addiction if you're not careful. And I like this explores that. And like I said, the gunpowder, it reminds me of, like, snorting heroin. And it's kind of the same idea. And I like that it explores that. I want to see more fantasy stories that do that, because, you know, magic is seen as so awesome. It makes you powerful, and it's a good thing. You can save the world, and, you know, but and it makes you special. But it'd be kind of interesting to see stories that look at magic as it's not always a good thing. It can be dangerous. It can be dangerous for you as a when if you use too much of it, if you depend and rely too much on it. Not just it can kill people, you know. There's a lot of stories that deal with that in fantasy. But like I said, I'm talking like the magic not killing people, but, you know, destroying you because you rely too much on it. Let's see what else. I also really enjoy that Thomas is, like, a much older character. He's older than 20. He's probably older than 30. Which is how old I am. I'm in my 30, not 30, but actually 32. So I like how we get a protagonist's perspective, because his son is also a protagonist and he's in his 20s. But one of the main protagonists is older. And maybe this comes from reading, you know, I read too much YA and I need to read older fantasy so I can get that. But sometimes even old adult fantasy, the main characters are in their 20s. And I'm past my 20s. I'm still younger than Thomas probably is, but it still was nice to see a character that has a responsibility and weight of the world on their shoulders that isn't a child or a teenager. Like, it's because, I mean, one of the things I think a lot of people, one of the tropes people talk about that they, you know, some people love it, are cool with it, other people are kind of find it amusing that a lot of stories have teenagers being super powerful and kicking ass, and they have responsibility and the weight of the world on their shoulders, and it's like, it's teenagers. Now, I do appreciate when there's some fantasy that have a teenager with that kind of responsibility, but they have an adult character to, you know, take care of them and mentor them and help them. Like, you know, like Buffy. Or like, you know, like the Rift War saga. They have adult mentors that don't just sit back and be like, you can't do this, you can't do that, or you should do it this way. They actually come to although, you know, Pug's mentors kind of do that, but like Buffy's mentor Giles gets involved in the fight, in the good fight. But anyway, so I like that the protagonist is much older, like I said, and I like the magic system. And I don't really have any criticisms or complaints. It's very fast paced and fun. I'm sure I'm sure other reviewers will probably have some complaints, because there's always going to be those people who don't love it. And I know this is one of one of Alan from the Library of Alexandria. It's one of his favorite fantasy, or he really enjoys it. But it's funny enough, he has read some of the novellas, and he doesn't like those. Which I find it's kind of funny that the novellas don't do it for him, but he loves the series. Yesterday I went to. No, of course, it won't be yesterday when you guys see this probably, but I went to BAM and I was trying to stick to one book, and I was thinking about getting the second book in the series, but they did not have it, and that always seems to happen at my Books a Million. If I wait too long before I get a book, it ends up not being there all of a sudden. No, but I did get a second book in another series, and another trilogy, I should say, that I'm reading. But anyway, so this was really fun. I had a good time. Like I said, I don't have anything negative. I'm sure if you look at other, like I said, if you look at other reviewers, they probably would have some negatives. And like I said, it's a war story, a revolution story. It's considered flintlock fantasy, which I think is basically fantasy that involves like guns and stuff like that. And it's more about the people and the aftermath of them rebelling and how they handle it. And it's not some big epic fantasy like Lord of the Rings or Stormlight Archives. It's a little more small scale, which that's another thing I really like. I like that it's small scale story. You know, I love my epic fantasies. But this one kind of makes, like I said, being in the city makes it a little more isolated. And it makes the stakes a little bit more personal for the characters, you know, not just, oh, they gotta save the whole kingdom or whatever, or everybody in the whole world all their eyes are on you. It's just this small one group of people that this one group is all, their eyes are all on you. But it's not like the whole world. It's just this one place. And I think it also is kind of inspired by like the French Revolution a little bit. I think. I'm not sure. But anyway, so that is Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan, the first book in the Powder Mage trilogy. I don't know when I'll get the next book. Hopefully soon. I am eager to read the next one. It might be a thrift books purchase, or might wait until my birthday. But I do get a free book, and I might wait until March to get that, because I'm trying to not spend as much money this month, and then I still feel like buying something in February would still be a little bit like, you just made this big purchase, and do you need to get, do you need to get one right after it? But anyway, so that is this one. That is my review and my thoughts on Promise of Blood. Like I said, I wish I could give you some criticisms, but I really can't. I'm not, I'm pretty, I've said this a million times before, but I'm easy to please, I mean, I have my limits, and I have aspects, things that I don't like in books. But most of the time, I always try to buy books that I'm pretty sure I'm going to like and enjoy. So, and it's very hard for me to come up with negative aspects of the negative things. But anyway, so if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below if you want to be notified when I post new videos. If this is your kind of thing, please check it out. It's a fun trilogy. At least so far, I enjoy it. And I will talk to y'all later. Alright, bye!